This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Has Taiwan always been part of China?
国际上呢，公认台湾是中国领土。
Hitherto, this island had always belonged to China.
But exactly how deep are the links between the two sides?
台湾有些论调，我忘了自己是中国人。台湾假如不是中国一部分，为什么来啊？
不是因为这国家很好，所以才来的。这国家很差，我们就不来。
I'm going to share with you stories of people who dare to bridge the gaps separating the two sides against strong headwinds. I'm on a ferry near the city of Xiamen in southern China, overlooking the Kingman Islands, including the islets you see right behind me. This is the closest point to the Taiwan region. I'm going to share with you stories of people who dare to bridge the gaps separating the two sides against strong headwinds. The story of one of them started half a century ago, not far from over there.
我第一次在金门听到炮声，脚都发软，恐怖。因为金门是战地啊，你们都没有听过炮声，真正的炮声啊是非常凄惨的事情。我第一次在金门听到。
Wu Guozhen is a professor of physics at Tsinghua University in Beijing. He was born and raised in Taiwan. In 1970, at the age of 23, upon graduating from university, he served in the military on the Kingman Islands in the Taiwan Straits. This was his first encounter with the mainland. 2 decades earlier, the Chiang Kai-shek regime had fled to Taiwan and surrounding islands after losing the civil war. A stalemate ensued. Emboldened by the United States, KMT forces kept attacking targets across the straits. In 1954 and 1958, Beijing shelled the Kingman Islands as a deterrent. In the 1960s, the shelling took the form of firing leaflet bombs every other day. The flyers which fell near Wu's barrack triggered his curiosity. 大陆和台湾之间发生了什么？有没有联系？
两岸是完全隔绝的，当时也不像现在有 email 什么手机什么都没有，新闻东西全部都是禁止的，对大陆这个资讯啊，全部完全禁止的。从小我们就教反攻大陆，台湾本地人像我父母亲那一代，从来跟共产党没什么关系的，他们是日据时代过来的人，他们也是害怕共产党，为什么？台湾整天宣传就这样的，到我们这一代也是这样受教育的。
Only a couple of years later, however, Wu's world would be turned upside down.
因为来大陆就等于说跟台湾说拜拜了，不是因为这国家很好，所以才来的。
In a library of Tsinghua University, Wu Guozhen showed me his prized historical materials. These silent films record an episode in history unknown to many.
71年的美国 video 才刚刚出来
Video camera.
对，才刚刚开始，而且很贵的。我截取了8分钟，你注意看一下哦，他那个拿的东西啊，有标语，然后还有一些那个各个大学的，来自什么学校的。 这个差不多独一无二的留下来的影视了。
In 1971, after finishing his military service, Wu went to the United States to pursue a doctoral degree. A student movement, however, changed the course of his life. In late 1970, Chinese students and overseas Chinese took to the streets to condemn the U.S. arbitrary decision to transfer administration of some Pacific islands near Taiwan to Japanese rule. The islands, including the Diaoyu or Diaoyu Tai, had been Chinese territory for centuries. This was the beginning of the movement to defend the Diaoyu Islands, or Bao Diao in short. 您当时去的时候是71年8月份，那么那个时候实际上保钓运动已经开始。您是怎么加入进去的？这个过程是怎么？
其实到我也不敢随便去那个参加运动啊，是吧？我们在台湾那种教育底下的这种都不行。但隔了1年以后，慢慢了解情况以后，慢慢逐步才那个跟那些早先的加入运动的这些朋友慢慢熟起来，所以慢慢才参加活动。我扭转这个思想花了2、3年时间，而且非常痛苦的过程。
Despite several months of outcry, the Taiwan authorities' weak response to the U.S. decision disappointed protesters. They realized that only a unified and strong China could protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity. The movement morphed into one promoting reunification. It would reach over 50 cities and more than 100 campuses across North America, Asia, and Europe.
长期以来，蒋政权一直对他们说，蒋介石代表着全中国，代表着台湾人民的利益。可是到了这个钓鱼岛这样子一个关键时刻，其实他们没有办法做任何的事情，甚至还要屈从于美国的这个要求，出卖自己国家的这个主权，反而是中华人民共和国政府展现出来了。然后加上那个时候，
Qiu Shijie is from Taiwan, currently teaching on the mainland.
所以海外的调运才会出现了一个剧烈的一个认同上的转变。从单纯的保土运动变成了是一个认同国家的这样子的运动。
In Tsinghua University, a permanent exhibit pays tribute to the hot-blooded youths involved in the Bao Diao movement.
保钓运动不单只在美国、欧洲也有他们出的小刊物，让各个校园里面嘛，这些保钓同学自己都可以出刊物。当时还没有打印机，
对，这是手写的，
对，都手写的。
这是1972年正式推出中国和平统一促进会的旗号，提出中国和平统一的口号。
在《纽约时报》（New York Times） 上面有登的这种公开信。
The New York Times, an open letter to President Nixon and members of the Congress. We write to call your attention to the violation of the Chinese sovereignty over the Diaoyu Tai Islands by the Japanese and Liu Chiu governments. Despite the agitation, Taiwan authorities suppressed voices calling for defending the islands and reunification.
被压下去了，他们都不会允许这东西的，因为这东西维系统一的话，肯定会危害到他政权嘛。
The movement did open up a window for young people from the island to understand new China. In 1975, at the age of 27, Wu Guozhen took the fateful move to be among one of the first groups of people from Taiwan since 1949 to set foot on the mainland.
这个是我1975年回来的时候的那个 copy 吧，就那个证件，
归国证明书。
对，
这当时其实大陆和台湾之间是不能进行这个人员的往来的，
对，
是吧？
不像现在有台胞证啊，什么这都没有嘛。这是中国驻美国联络处给发。
终于踏上了祖国大陆，
这胆子也够大，
胆子够大的。
因为来大陆就等于说跟台湾说拜拜的啊，你还敢回台湾吗？就给毙了。人家可能会觉得哦，你们很爱国、很伟大，去做的时候没想那么多，就认为这个事情应该有人去做，我应该去做，我就做了。
就是您认为一定要到大陆去看一看？
对，简单讲就这么一句话。
Wu and 6 fellow students traveled up and down the mainland for a couple of months. He took nearly 1,000 photos. It was a poor and backward place, yet full of vitality and ideals, Wu reckoned.
不是因为这国家很好，所以我才爱它；这国家很差，我们就不爱它。不是因为简单的爱国主义所占领统一，而是一个追求一个社会的正义。
台湾是中国人民开拓的，
他们一直忽略台湾自古以来是中国的部分。
This island had always belonged to China.
Fujian Province, a coastal province in southern China, is the closest to Taiwan geographically. The history of two-way exchanges runs deep. In Zhangzhou City, Fujian Province, an annual parade is taking place to pay tribute to Guandi, literally Emperor Guan. It is a deity symbolizing loyalty and righteousness, worshipped by Chinese across the world, especially in Taiwan. Every year, devotees from the island would join the procession together with their floats. The event was the first one after COVID restrictions were lifted. Clearly, extreme heat and humidity didn't dampen people's enthusiasm. But exactly how deep are the links between the two sides? The Anthropology Museum of Xiamen University in Fujian houses one of the largest collections of Taiwan-related artifacts on the mainland. People who don't know the history of China may wonder why Taiwan has been an inalienable part of China. But for the Chinese, including many on the island, it's never been a question.
我手里的这2件呢，一件是来自于我们福建武平的新石器时代的有段石碑，一件是来自台北圆山遗址的有段石碑。
从年代上，这一块大概距今多少年？
距今3000到5000年左右。台湾的呢稍晚，就是距今1500到3000年。来自于大陆的这一块呢，它是比我们来自于台湾的这一块更原始一点，所以它是在这个文化发展的早期。而台湾这一块，它的整个石头已经有了玉质化的倾向，打磨得非常的光滑。由此可以看来呢，就是台湾地区的新石器时代的文化也好，就是人类也好，是从大陆迁徙过去。
The hidden crown jewel of the museum is a military map believed to be drawn during the 18th century.
现在看到的呢，这幅是我们馆藏的清初台湾手绘地图，上面是东部呢是崇山峻岭，它是台湾的中央山脉部分，然后下面就是靠近我们的台湾海峡。然后我们推测它为军事用途，也是因为它非常详细的标注出了军事驻地和这个驻军。
比如这里写着炮台，
对，它所有的都有。
所以画这个图的人对台湾的情况是非常非常熟悉，
而且他要画得非常的详细，因为他是要给这边的中央地区来了解台湾的整个的军事部署。
Since the 12th century, China's imperial central governments have effectively ruled islands including Taiwan and Penghu on its southeastern seaboard. Dutch and Spanish colonialists occupied parts of Taiwan in the 17th century. In 1684, the Qing dynasty set up a Taiwan prefecture under the jurisdiction of Fujian Province. The map clearly illustrates this administrative structure.
还有一个，我们在研究这幅地图的时候，发现一个比较独特的地方，它里面有很多的地名，都是直接用的我们福建或者是这个粤东、闽西地名，像这个地方。龙岩厝，龙岩就是我们这个福建龙岩。
那从整个这个地图的研究，你们得出的一个结论是什么呢？
我们就是发现，其实早在就是明清之际吧，福建整个东南沿海跟台湾的这个联系已经非常的紧密。那两岸的人民都有很多的这个沟通和往来。闽南过去的村民在这边设立村庄。那跟当地的人民一起开发整个的这个台湾岛，才有了整个发展和繁华。
This is not the only such map. An almost identical copy can be found in a museum in Taipei dating from the same period.
它的水路、水道，还有它的城门的设置，甚至它一半竹子、一半城墙的这个特征也画出来了。包含里面有各种信仰的场所，有妈祖宫、关帝庙，
实际上也是从一个侧面印证了这幅地图的年代
对
和它
真实性。
At the end of the Qing dynasty, the fate of the island suffered a major twist. In 1895, after the First Sino-Japanese War, Japan forced the defeated Qing government to cede Taiwan. Japan exerted a brutal colonial rule over the island for 50 years. In 1943, heads of governments from China, the US and the UK issued the Cairo Declaration, stating that all the territories Japan had stolen from the Chinese shall be restored to China. In 1945, an ultimatum called the Potsdam Proclamation, signed by the three countries and subsequently recognized by the Soviet Union, was issued to Japan, stressing that the terms of the Cairo Declaration shall be carried out. The People's Republic of China, founded in 1949, replaced the previous KMT regime. As a natural result, Beijing enjoys and exercises China's full sovereignty, including that over Taiwan.
台湾是中国人民开拓的，另外呢，台湾一直是中国政府管行政管辖底下。 所以这个是中国领土。
Chen Kong Li of Xiamen University is a respected authority on Taiwan studies. He started his research in the early 1960s, spanning the most tumultuous periods of cross-strait relations.
另外呢，从历史上是被日本侵占过，但是国际上呢公认。 台湾是中国领土，这两点是没有问题的。
Hitherto, this island had always belonged to China, and the Dutch had doubtless been permitted to live there, seeing that the Chinese did not require it for themselves. But requiring it now, it was only fair that Dutch strangers who came from far regions should give way to the masters of the island.
William Brown has lived on the mainland for 35 years. Prior to that, he had served in Taiwan as a U.S. airman for 2 years. He showed me this book written by a former Dutch colonizer. So the last Dutch governor of Taiwan in the beginning of the 17th century actually admitted himself that the island of Taiwan was part of China.
Yes.
他们一直忽略台湾自古以来是中国的一部分。 就是完全忽略到那个历史脉络，好像台湾跟大陆一开始就是分离的两个个体。你至少要看到前面的历史过程吧？你看到这个历史过程，你才能去说为什么两岸会出现这样子的一个状况。
Historical evidence is crystal clear. However, in recent decades, the water has been muddied by the rulers of Taiwan. After two-way travels were eventually restored in 1987, relations would peak 2 decades later. At one point, in 1992, both sides reached a consensus that there is only one China. But things took a nosedive since 2016, when Tsai Ing-wen from the Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, gained power. On legislative front, Tsai pushes the passage of several laws, including the so-called Anti-Infiltration Act, to intimidate and suppress voices for integration and reunification. Under the Act, those who are found to participate in political activities at the instruction or commission of, or with financial support from, so-called hostile external forces could face years in jail. Another tool is to deepen a decades-long campaign to strip islanders of their Chinese identity.
他已经不认为他是中国人。
我们就是炎黄子孙。
They're not doing it for the good of the people. This is just a political thing.
The Yellow River is China's second longest river. Its source, marked by a copper statue, is located in the remote northwestern hinterlands. The river flows eastward, stretching over 5,400 kilometers. As the cradle of the Chinese civilization, it's dubbed Mother River of the Chinese nation. People started to settle alongside the river since ancient times. A legendary ruler, Huang Di, or the Yellow Emperor, united the divided tribal groups, which later developed into a greater civilization that is still present today, and the offspring became today's Chinese. In northwest China's Shanxi province, an annual ceremony to pay homage to Huang Di was held during the Qingming or Tomb Sweeping Festival. Many compatriots from Taiwan traveled far to attend the event.
简单来说，一句话，我们都是炎黄子孙。所以其实不管是台湾也好，还是在这边也好，我们都是炎黄子孙。那炎黄子孙，大家都一定要寻根，根才是我们的家。
In 2013, the then chairman of Taiwan's new party, Yok Moo-ming, planted a cypress tree during the ceremony. He named the site Si Yuan Ling, a nod to the shared ancestry and roots between Taiwan and the mainland. Following the ceremony, many from Taiwan planted trees on this site. 10 years later, Yok Moo-ming visited here again.
我这次是第9次，那从2010年开始到现在啊，中国人最讲孝道，所以对于自己的家祖先也要祭拜，对于民族的祖先，当然也应该尊敬。
Yok Moo-ming is in his 80s. At the age of 8, he left the mainland with his father, who was going to do business in Taiwan. They never expected that they wouldn't be able to go home for the next 20 years.
台湾有些论调就忘了自己是中国人，就硬是要把说从中国分裂出去。但是我是一个最明确的见证人啊！我1948年到台湾，本来是我哥哥来，后来临时换了我。台湾假如不是中国一部分，我怎么来啊？刚刚光复的时候，我知道很多台湾人是心向祖国的啊。那么当李登辉有这样的课纲啊，要去中国化，当然下一代就受影响。
Since Li Tenghui's time, an official campaign has been unfolding to strip the Taiwan locals of their Chinese identity. Young students have been the primary target.
1997年以后，一直到现在，台湾就是政府开始修改台湾历史的教科书。现在台湾历史教科书已经没有中国史，中国史变成外国史。像李登辉就讲，台湾人不是中华民族，台湾历史不是5000年，是400年。这李登辉啊，蔡英文讲，中华文化是国民党统治台湾人民的工具。
在台湾目前来说是非常非常的困难的，就是理性的讲大陆的好话是不容易的，而且就会觉得你是一个投机的人，是不是想要投什么机啊？所以才要讲这个大陆的好话。但你要不理性的讲大陆的坏话，就是非常的容易。
In 2019, Taiwan authorities drastically cut contents about Chinese history and placed it in the category of East Asian history. This approach triggered strong opposition from many on the island.
新课纲历史课本除了删除三国史之外，其他朝代的内容与文字叙述上篇幅也有调整。
中国是注重历史的民族，那我们很多强调的一些美德、忠孝节义等等，其实也都会变成失去根据，因为你根本不知道过去做了些什么，那现在该如何教现在的小孩？
在这种的历史课本跟历史教材的剪裁里面，让台湾人到最后根本不知道自己是什么东西。 否认了自己跟中国的文化、跟中国的历史、跟中国的血缘的关系以外，请问有什么好处？唯一得到的好处的就是主张台独的内挂政客。
After the ceremony to commemorate Huang Di, I talked to a young person from Taiwan.
我是1990年出生的，那个时候已经开始慢慢进行去中国化，已经所剩无几了。那慢慢以台湾史来取代中国史，包括对整个中华人民共和国历史都有一个妖魔化进程。
经过23年的教育，从小学一直到大学，所以40几岁以下的这些到现在刚出生的台湾的年轻人，他接受的身份认同是混淆的，他已经不认为他是中国人。
他们受西方文化影响很厉害，他们那边知识分子到了比较高层，都去美国去留美，他们回来教育年轻一代都是灌输美国那套，所以灌输的很厉害，不单单是什么简单的宣传，同时呢，他这个观点是通过政府传播下去。
This is pretty obvious to me that they're not doing it for the good of the people. This is just a political thing. The people in power, if they became part of Mainland again, or even did the one party, two systems things, but still they would lose some measure of power. And right now they're in complete control. And they don't want to give up their political power.
台湾现在开放，大陆资讯也不能说完全都禁止没有嘛，但他的学生呢，他的年轻人呢，是不是很真正的思考中国近代史的变化？共产党革命的历史，毛泽东是何许人物？共产党是做什么事情？大部分都是 zero。
For Wu Guozhen, the price for pursuing truth was high. After he settled in Beijing in 1977, it would take him 16 years to finally revisit his hometown.
他不让我们回去。
当时是，知道了这么一个结果之后是什么样的心情？
那也无可奈何。
In 1993, he was allowed to set foot in Taiwan to see his father. By then, his mother had passed away.
93年第一次回台湾去吧，我跟见到的我们那些亲戚朋友我都跟他们说道歉。我说我做了一些事情，让你们可能有一些不方便的地方，给他们也是有一些压力吧。但是这个事情他们本身也并没有跟我讲说你乱跑，那我们都惨了，是吧？他们也后来慢慢也理解，是吧？
当地的一些人，特别是官员，就是他们将您看成是
异议分子，
是吧？
非收拾你不可。
Wu Guozhen found his way in life through joining the Baodiao movement, but he wanted more people to be inspired. In 2010, with his help, a center was established in Tsinghua University to collect materials related to the movement. Wu donated his personal collections. He also serves as a consultant to gather more archives from that period. The center now boasts nearly 20,000 such items, the largest in the world.
两岸交流那么多年很多东西是流于表面，深层的东西，很多问题并没有真正的去解决。这种东西是相当怎么讲的，很难办的一件事情。怎么样看待两岸关系？大陆的人怎么去理解台湾？或台湾的人怎么去理解大陆？或者思考，大的来讲中国的未来，小一点话讲台湾的何去何从问题，希望对于后面的人能够有一些启示。虽然时代不一样，但是很多地方还是有共同的地方。
48年之后，再回头看当时那个决定，您觉得您选择的对了吗？
对，当然对，
毫不犹豫的。
对，
Over the past decades, the Chinese people have borne the weight of countless hardships caused by the painful divisions. Today, we should have the right to determine our own fate. Eventually, serenity shall permeate the Taiwan Straits, allowing us to sail towards a shared and promising future.